The midnight hospital lights cast a sterile glow over the linoleum floors as I steadied my mother-in-law's trembling arm. Her blood pressure had surged without warning. Leaving my father-in-law pale and fretful, I'd driven through the sleeping city, my knuckles tight on the wheel, urgency humming in my veins. "Sherry," my mother-in-law murmured, her voice thin with exhaustion and guilt. "I'm so sorry, dragging you out like this in the dead of night." I shook my head gently. "It's nothing. Mom, Ryan's tied up with work. Looking after you and Dad is the least I can do. I'm your daughter, after all." We'd just collected the prescribed medications when a voice, honey-sweet and rehearsed, sliced through the hushed corridor. "Sherry. What a coincidence." I turned. There stood Susan, Ryan's secretary, her smile a little too bright, and beside her, Ryan, his hand rested firmly under her elbow, a gesture of support that felt like a violation. My gaze snagged on the gentle curve of her abdomen, which she now cradled with theatrical care. A cold fire ignited in my chest. Susan's eyes glittered with triumph, masked as concern before I could form a question. She seized my hand, her touch falsely soothing. "Sherry, please. This is all my fault. Don't be angry with Ryan." The words were a grenade disguised as an apology. I hadn't even spoken, hadn't accused, hadn't demanded, yet her confession hung between us, thick and damning. Ryan's eyes were fixed on me, wary, defensive. Poised as though to shield her from my reaction, the air grew heavy, charged with everything unspoken. I locked eyes with him, my voice low but sharp as glass. "Don't you think you owe me an explanation?" He sighed, a weary, resigned sound, and gently guided Susan's hand into the crook of his arm. "Let me take you to get your medicine first," he said to her, voice tender. "I'll handle this." And in that moment, the world tilted. The fluorescent lights buzzed like a warning. Something had broken, irrevocably. And the pieces lay scattered between us on that cold hospital floor. His soft, tender voice gave me goosebumps. In the 6 years we'd been married, he had never spoken to me in that tone. As I watched, he stayed close to Susan and helped her collect several large bags of prenatal and health supplements. Here, I was in the middle of the night helping his mother get medical care while he was busy tending to his secretary's pregnancy. I sat on a bench in the hallway waiting for Ryan to come give me an explanation, but just then, my in-laws walked straight past me without a word, heading directly toward Ryan and Susan. Ryan looked sincere and apologetic as he held his mom's hand and said, "I didn't mean to keep this from you. I hope you can understand, Susan, and I truly love each other. She's carrying your grandchild. So please don't blame her over the 6 years of our marriage." Whenever my mother-in-law and I disagreed, Ryan always asked me to give in because she was older. I thought that was just his nature, or maybe just his way of being filial, but now seeing how he shielded Susan in every way, I realized I was the clown in this whole story. Susan reached out and held my mother-in-law's hand as well. "I never meant to ruin Ryan's marriage," she said. "We genuinely love each other. I just want to give him a child. I hope you and Mr. Smith can understand." Upon hearing that Susan was pregnant, my mother-in-law beamed with joy, but she did glance at me hesitantly. After all, I'd been giving her a large allowance every month, something Susan could never match financially. Still, my heart went completely cold. Ryan, my husband, had no shame in parading his pregnant mistress right in front of me, acting as if my presence didn't matter at all. Did he really think I was so easy to push around? Sensing the tension in the air, Susan began to sob softly. "You can scold me however you want, but the child is innocent. Please don't ever hurt my baby." Her tears streamed down her cheeks. Ryan, seeing this, quickly wiped them away with a pained expression and said to his mother, "Say something, will you? Don't you know how important it is to keep a pregnant woman emotionally stable? I'm planning to bring Susan home tomorrow, so I can take care of her. Is that okay?" In all our years of marriage, I had never gotten pregnant. I knew my in-laws had spoken poorly of me behind my back about that. Perhaps keeping that in mind, my father-in-law finally opened his mouth. "Well, since Susan is carrying a Smith family child, let's bring..." Everyone just tried to be patient and get along, just like that they had made a decision without me. For a moment, I felt like a complete outsider. I let out a cold laugh and asked, "So no one's going to ask what I think?" My face was full of displeasure, but Ryan looked even more annoyed than I did. Standing protectively in front of Susan, he said, "You heard everything already. What's left to discuss with you?" I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. For 6 years, I had cooked and cleaned, taken care of his parents. And now not only was I blindsided with this betrayal, but he still dared to treat me as if I was the unreasonable one. Susan, who had seemed perfectly fine a moment ago, began crying again as if on cue. "Ryan, maybe I should just leave and get rid of the baby," Susan said hesitantly. My mother-in-law immediately grew upset. "This is the Smith family's grandchild. You absolutely cannot leave, and you definitely cannot abort the baby." Ryan turned and pointed at my face. "Say something," Sherry, can't you see how scared? You've made Susan. That child is mine. If you have a problem, take it up with me. Stop taking it out on her. But Susan quickly grabbed Ryan's hand. No. Ryan, I don't want you to be upset. That would break my heart. The two of them held hands, gazing at each other with tears in their eyes. If I were some kind of cruel villain bent on destroying their love. My in-laws nodded and smiled, clearly pleased with Susan. I couldn't stand it anymore. I turned around and left. I drove home by myself. The next morning, I was woken by laughter coming from the courtyard. Turned out Ryan had brought his secretary home last night. When housekeeper brought my breakfast, he told me that Susan had even tried to move into the master bedroom. Fortunately, Ryan's mother stopped her, saying, Sherry is still the heiress of the Summer family. We'll need her help with many things in the future. We can't afford to offend her completely. The housekeeper glanced at me, clearly nervous that I'd be angry. I signaled him to go on. He hesitated, then continued. They said all of Susan's pregnancy expenses would be covered by you once the baby is born. You'll be the one to take care of it since you can't have children. They want you to experience the joy of motherhood this way. My face turned pale with rage. I gritted my teeth. And what else did they say? The housekeeper replied quietly. They also said that after you die, the entire Summer family fortune should go to this child. I let out a laugh, half in disbelief, half in fury. How dare they imagine something so shameless and absurd? Even though I was seething, I knew it still wasn't the right time to flip the table. I told the housekeeper to keep everything running as usual. Then I pulled open the blinds in the master bedroom in the courtyard. I saw Ryan supporting Susan as they took a walk. A bitter ache surged in my chest. The memories came flooding back 6 years ago. I had cried and begged my parents to let me marry Ryan. I had even rejected their carefully arranged marriage with the Wong family. For him, the Wongs were one of the most prominent families in the city. Their son, William, had been my childhood friend, but to me, he always felt more like a big brother. I never had those kinds of feelings for him. I told my mom that I wanted to make my own decisions when it came to marriage. That William probably didn't even like me that way, but my parents insisted otherwise. If he didn't like you, they said, why would he wait outside for you every day just to walk you to school? Why would he come over so often under the excuse of doing homework together? Back then, I didn't really care whether William liked me or not because I was already completely infatuated with Ryan. I met him by the track field at school. A few drunk guys surrounded me, demanding my contact info. Even after I gave it to them, they wouldn't leave me alone. They wanted me to drink with them just as I was trying to push them away. Ryan appeared. He charged in and took them down with a few punches and kicks. That day, he had just finished playing basketball. He was in his sportswear, tall and athletic with a sunshine smile that completely dazzled me. He was everything. I couldn't resist. I couldn't help myself. I asked for his number first. After that, I kept creating opportunities to run into him just so I could have another reason to talk to him. It was love at first sight. From that moment on, I was willing to follow him anywhere. After we got married, Ryan suggested he helped manage my company. He said he wanted me to live a happy life as a full-time wife. I agreed. It felt right. A couple should support each other. He would build his career, and I would back him fully. My parents warned me to think it over. They asked if he was only with me because of my family's wealth and if maybe he didn't truly love me. I argued with them fiercely. I told them they were being ridiculous and unfair to him. I insisted we love each other sincerely. Don't you ever slander him like that again. Ryan came from a poor mountain village. His family's financial situation was very modest. After we got married, I moved both his parents into the Summer family estate. I only brought Ryan's parents to live with us so it would be easier to take care of them. They quit their small workshop jobs back in their hometown and started living comfortably in the monthly allowance I gave them. They went around proudly showing off that their son had become a big boss, which led to a flood of relatives from the Smith family coming to me for help. The girls wanted my help finding wealthy, well-connected families in the city to marry into. The boys came to me after graduating asking for jobs. I did my best to meet all their requests. After all, we were husband and wife. Helping his family a little didn't seem like a big deal. Back before I got married, on the night of my engagement, William gave me a stock transfer agreement. He said that with those shares in hand, if my marriage ever failed, I'd have the power and means to walk away from. He vowed, besides the Summer family, you have me if he ever dares to betray you. I won't let him get away with it. At the time, I laughed at him. I was so confident in my judgment. I believed Ryan would never betray me. Now looking back, everyone who warned me was right. I was the only one who got completely blinded by love like a fool, clinging to him with everything I had. Even after we got married and I gave in to him on everything, he still found faults with me, said I had a bad temper, said I wasn't as gentle and virtuous as other people's wives. I changed myself for him. My best friends used to laugh and say, wow, A spoiled heiress turning into someone else entirely for a man because of all that me in-laws were very pleased with. May's relatives often praised me for being beautiful and kind-hearted, but Ryan. He was the only one who could always pick out flaws, and May used to think it was because I wasn't good enough. Now I realize it's because he never loved May. He only ever saw me as a stepping stone. Of course, he couldn't see anything good in me. Around lunchtime, Susan came to call me to eat. I didn't bother responding to her, so she started crying outside my door, loud enough for Ryan to hear. Ryan, Sherry seems to really hate me. I was just being nice and asked her to eat, and she yelled at me. She sobbed. I opened the door to find Susan standing there with tears streaming down her face like a tragic movie star. Ryan rushed to hold her, his voice full of concern. Don't cry, I'll talk to her. When Susan saw me come out, she pulled out a lipstick and handed it to me. Sherry, this is a little gift for you. A token for our first proper meeting. Let's try to get along as a family, okay? A family. She really thought she could just move into my home like it was nothing. I slapped the lipstick out of her hand. In your dreams. Who are you pretending for? With that fake sweetness, Susan burst into loud sobs and ran straight into Ryan's arms. He glared at me and stormed over, raising his hand and slapping me hard across the face. Sherry Summer, he roared. I told you yesterday Susan is pregnant. She needs to stay calm. Are you trying to kill her with stress? You're a damn shrew, a shrew. That's what he called. May's eyes were full of fury, like he wanted to devour me whole. That slap shattered every last bit of love I had left for him, and I knew exactly why he dared to hit me. Because I had always been too obedient, because I had tolerated everything from him and his family. He had completely forgotten that he was nothing more than alive and husband in the Summer household. I struck back immediately, landing 2 sharp slaps on either side of his face. I used all my strength. His cheeks turned red and swollen. Instantly I stared at me, stunned. Sherry, you actually hit me. I shook out my numb right hand. You hit me first. What? Now you're the victim. I am the daughter of the Summer family. I snapped. You think someone like you can humiliate me however you please? His mother quickly stepped in to de-escalate the situation. Sherry, dear, Ryan was just acting on impulse. Don't take it to heart. Then she pulled Ryan aside and gave him a sharp look, clearly warning him to cool down. It was the first time Ryan had ever raised a hand to me. I could tell he was nervous, but with Susan there, his pride as a man was clearly triggered. He turned his head and stubbornly refused to apologize. His mother finally shouted at him. Ryan, that seemed to snap him out of it. He realized pushing this further wouldn't end well for him. Fine, he muttered. I was too emotional, but if you had just come to lunch with Susan, none of this would have happened. That wasn't an apology, that was blaming. May felt ice spread through my chest. I didn't eat dinner with them that night. The next day, I slept in until noon and skipped lunch. Then I left the house. My assistant told me rumors had already spread throughout the company. People were saying my husband brought his secretary home, and that she was already pregnant. I had just stepped outside when Ryan texted me, asking me to pick up 2 boxes of Hawthorne pastries for Susan on my way back. He said she might be carrying a baby boy and was craving something sour. He even suggested I should buy her a small gift to apologize for what I said to her yesterday. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. I replied flatly, you really have no idea what's going on, do you? Right after that, the housekeeper sent me a message. He told me Susan had taken all the health supplements me mom had given me, claiming they were good for her pregnancy. Ryan's whole family was overjoyed. Ryan even told everyone that whatever Susan wanted to eat, the household would provide it without question. I couldn't believe that my mother's thoughtful gesture had ended up benefiting a homewrecker. Even Ryan's mother, who I always thought was the most sensible and clear-minded of them all, had gone along with it since they were clearly showing no shame. I saw no reason to keep pretending either. I went straight to the office and called a senior executive meeting. I announced a full personnel restructuring and a major shift in management. I declared my official return to the company and announced that Ryan was being removed from his role as general manager. Fired on the spot, he was banned from ever stepping foot in the company again. The entire room was in shock. I didn't give any further explanation. I simply had my assistant issue a public. If Ryan and his family want a healthy baby boy, they can raise him on their own dime after dealing with everything. I went back to my parents' house from the moment I made my decision. Ryan had been calling me non-stop. I didn't answer a single call. My mom noticed how worn out I looked and asked gently, Sherry, what's wrong? What happened? Her concern broke. May collapsed into her arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Growing up, I had always been the pampered little princess of I had never suffered like this, and I had never cried in front of my mom before. So the moment she saw me like that, she immediately knew something was seriously wrong. Her phone buzzed a few times. She glanced at the screen and seemed to understand everything. Sherry, how could you endure all this without telling me sooner? She asked, her voice filled with pain that only made me cry harder. It took a long time before I could calm down enough to speak. I was the one who insisted on marrying that bastard, Ryan. This is all my own doing. I ignored all your I don't even have the face to come to you with my problems. Now my mom looked angry when she heard that. What do you mean? You let us down your father, and I will always be your strongest support. I told you long ago Ryan wasn't someone to rely on. But it's not too late if he can treat you like this. You can absolutely find someone better. I stayed in my mom's arms for a long time. Crying, my mom is usually a very gentle person, but even she couldn't hide the fury in her eyes when she spoke of Ryan just then. My dad came home, and with him was William the First. Quickly wiped my tears and tried talked like nothing had happened. Mr. Wong, what brings a busy man like you to our house today? My mom nudged me lightly and said, William hasn't been here in ages. I'm sure he came because he heard you were back. Embarrassed, I got up from the sofa. Not knowing what to do with myself, William looked me over from head to toe, then sighed. What happened to the outspoken little heiress who used to run the house? And now what? You get bullied in your marriage and come crying back to your mother. That's not the Sherry I remember. When someone hurts you, you fight back on the spot. That's who you are. Clearly, he had heard the gossip. He knew something had gone wrong with my marriage. His eyes were full of worry, but the last thing I wanted was for him to see me like this, humiliated and heartbroken. I turned away uncomfortably, but he grabbed my hand before I could walk off. We haven't even talked yet. Where do you think you're going? My eyes welled up again and tears began to fall. William immediately let go. Flustered, I'm sorry, that was too harsh. I shouldn't have said it like that. But before he even finished apologizing, 2 streams of tears had already rolled down my cheeks. Panicked, he tried to wipe them away, clumsily fixing my hair as if he could somehow undo the damage. William looked at me and said gently, how about you hit me a few times instead? I really can't stand seeing you cry. You know that it was true when we were kids. Every time I cried, he would gently fix my hair just like that. Who would have thought that the same William who had now become the sharp and decisive CEO still tried to comfort me the same old way? Just then, my phone rang. It was Ryan. Furious on the other end. He just asked you to pick up some Hawthorne pastries. Where the hell did you go? Don't you know there's a pregnant woman at home still waiting to eat? My parents could clearly hear the arrogant, domineering tone of his voice. William snatched the phone from my hand, hung up without hesitation, and snapped, that arrogant bastard. One day he'll pay for this. I didn't go home that night no matter how many times Ryan called. I didn't answer the next day. I finally returned home around noon. Ryan was sitting on the sofa glaring at me in silence. I ignored him and walked straight to my room. The housekeeper cautiously came to find me and reported, while you were gone yesterday, Miss Dre, Susan kept throwing tantrums all night because she wanted Hawthorne pastries. None of us got any sleep this morning. She woke up in a foul mood and yelled at me, said the food I made was awful, and told me if I didn't want to work here, I should pack my things and leave. Honestly, if you hadn't warned me ahead of time, I would have already quit. I told him calmly, just endure it a few more days. The more arrogant they get, the sooner they'll bring about their own downfall. Susan thought just because she was pregnant she could ride roughshod over me. She really had no idea who she was dealing with. After learning everything that had happened at home, I went downstairs and sat across from Ryan, staring coldly at the slap marks still faintly visible on his face. Before I could even speak, he exploded with anger. Sherry, Summer, so you still remember to come home? I couldn't help but laugh. This is my home. Since when do you get to decide when I come back? Just then, Susan stormed in with Ryan's parents, clearly furious. She slammed a bank card on the table and shouted, Ryan, didn't you say this card had no spending limit? Why did the cashier say it was declined? I had to ask Uncle and Annie to help me pay, but even combined, they couldn't come up with enough for a bag that cost under 20 grand. Ryan looked stunned. That's impossible. That card has no limit. It's the one Sherry gave meth in. He turned and glared at me. Sherry, did you do something to the account? At this point, I wasn't interested in saving face for him anymore. I froze it. I said calmly, if I don't want you to spend, then you won't spend. What are you going to do about it? Susan's eyes turned red as she leaned on Ryan's shoulder, whining, Ryan, you really need to handle this. I saw 3 bags I liked. I really wanted to buy them, of course. Ryan didn't want to lose face in front of the woman he adored. He grabbed my arm, trying to pull me into the next room to talk, but my bodyguards, already arranged in advance, slammed him face down onto the table before he could move me an inch. Furious, Ryan, Sherry, what the hell are you doing? I calmly smoothed out my clothes and said coldly, what do you think you are? After slapping me in the face, you still think I'll just let you do whatever you want? Ryan's parents finally stepped in once they saw I had brought bodyguards. This is all a misunderstanding. His mom said Ryan didn't mean to hurt you. Let's all just sit down and talk this out. I let out a cold laugh. Talk if I hadn't brought bodyguards. You'd all just try to force money out of me again, admit it, you wouldn't let me leave here, so, cornered. Ryan's mother had no response. Susan was so frightened she didn't dare speak. I sneered. Weren't you two supposed to be in love? Why are you cowering now? Ryan barked. If you have a problem, take it out on me, don't go after Susan. I was speechless. How dumb could he be? He couldn't even protect himself anymore, and he was still shielding her. Susan, seeing that Ryan was still defending her, quickly added, "It's not that I don't want to deal with it, Ryan, but I'm pregnant. If anything happens, none of us can bear the consequences." I smiled and reached out, pretending like I was just going to gently touch her belly, but Ryan's father suddenly shoved me to the ground. "That's my grandson," he shouted. "I don't care if you're the golden goose of the Summer family. Stay the hell away from my grandson." I sat on the floor in pain, thinking back to the first time I met Ryan's parents. I had brought gifts and visited their home with sincerity. They were so overjoyed they cried, thrilled that their son had finally found a wife. They practically wanted to serve me a banquet in their stone table, and now, for the sake of a mistress and an unborn child, they had the audacity to lay hands on me. A few minutes later, William arrived right on time. When he saw me on the floor, his face darkened. "Who did this?" he roared. I pointed straight at Ryan's father. William's bodyguards rushed over and immediately restrained him. "Ryan, lost it. Let go of my dad. What are you trying to do?" "I ordered my men to tie Ryan to a chair. If he starts shouting," I said coldly, "slap him." His face turned red with fury. I grabbed Ryan by the collar and looked him in the eye. "I have a surprise for you," I said quietly, "and once you see it, you'll be so grateful." Ryan's lip was bleeding from the earlier slap. His parents were yelling in outrage, but it made no difference. Susan was frozen with fear, standing stiffly in place, unable to move. I grabbed her chin and asked, "Are you sure the baby you're carrying is even Ryan's?" Ryan snapped, "What the hell are you talking about? Don't say such nonsense." But the truth was, I had already asked William to help me with something yesterday with the Wong family's resources. This task was nothing. I pulled out the photos and chat records that William had sent me, pictures of Susan and her ex, plus their private messages. When Susan saw the evidence, her face turned pale. "How did you get these?" Ryan finally realized the truth. Susan had been seeing another man the entire time. She had always looked down on Ryan for being alive and husband, but after that man got her pregnant, he vanished without a trace, not even offering money for an abortion out of desperation. Susan turned to Ryan to clean up the mess. Ever since the day I saw Ryan taking Susan to her prenatal checkup, I had already started laying the groundwork. No matter how much I once loved Ryan, I wasn't stupid enough to hand the entire Summer family fortune over to him. I had once given him full management of the company, so naturally I had the power to take it back whenever I pleased. With everything laid out, Ryan turned to Susan screaming, "Is this true? You used me like some idiot this whole time." Even at this point, Ryan was still hung up on whether or not there had ever been love between them. I cut him off. "You've already been officially dismissed from Summer Holdings. I'll be conducting a full audit of all the accounts you handled while you are in charge. Any discrepancies, every single cent you'll pay back." Ryan panicked. "Sherry, it's all a misunderstanding. I was tricked. I swear, please just give me another chance." William couldn't take it anymore. He slammed the divorce papers down in Ryan's face. "Sign it. Stop pretending to be pitiful. You know how Sherry is once she's made up her mind. There's no going back." Ryan's parents, now aware of the truth, were full of regret. They dropped to their knees begging for forgiveness on his behalf, but I sneered and stopped them. "Enough. It's too late. What's the point of all this now?" That very day I kicked Ryan, Susan and his parents out of the Summer estate. I informed the residential management to blacklist all four of them. I never wanted to see them near my home again. Once everything was handled, I left the country with William. He reminded me of something I'd long forgotten. My dream of becoming a painter. He said he could help me try. Agnes, the only child of the Summer family, I had always believed I was obligated to run the family business. Painting could only be a hobby. I once told Ryan about it, but he just sneered and said, "Only broke scholars do that kind of thing." He had too much pride in his eyes. His woman had to be a perfect homemaker, not someone with dreams of art. So my dream had been shelved for years. Yesterday, I casually mentioned it to William today. He had already arranged everything. After we landed, I saw dozens of missed calls on my phone. My assistant had sent me a message. Ryan had taken his entire family to the company to stir up drama and even brought the media with him. Seeing my frown, William grabbed my phone and said, "Let me handle stupid stuff like this from now on." Just one sentence, but my heart stirred. Ever since I married Ryan, I'd been the one handling everything. It had been so long since anyone had protected me like that. Ryan had always been busy. Even when I was sick, he never came with me to the doctor. Even when I had trouble getting pregnant and begged him to come with me to the hospital, he always said he had no time because they had been blaming me for being infertile this whole time. But every time I went in for a gynecological exam, The results were perfectly normal. I tiptoed around Ryan's feelings, trying to protect his pride, and in the end, this was the outcome I got. When we arrived in Japan, I met with several well-known manga artists to discuss a potential collaboration. After wrapping up the meeting, I invited William out for dinner. He gave me a bouquet of garden roses. I froze for a moment when I saw the flowers. "What's wrong?" he asked. Smiling, I replied, "If I tell you, you might laugh at me." For years, Ryan had been giving me red roses, but I told him more than once that my favorite flowers were garden roses. Not roses. He never listened, and yet here William was after all these years, still remembering the little things about me. That's when I finally understood it wasn't that Ryan forgot, he just never cared. That night I got drunk. In the past, I'd held myself to strict standards, especially with the infertility issue looming over. May never touched alcohol, but this time I let go. William took me back to my room and whispered something in my ear. I was dazed and didn't catch what he said. He stayed in Japan for 7 days. Every day I slept in late, then spent the rest of the day exploring the city or watching the ocean with William. We'd stay out until after midnight for the first time in years. I felt truly relaxed, and I came to terms with many things. I was certain now divorcing Ryan was the right decision. I didn't regret it one bit. Back in China, Ryan kept refusing to sign the divorce papers. He stirred up trouble at the company every day. As soon as I returned, I filed a lawsuit against him. Ryan's family had always been poor. After getting kicked out, they couldn't even afford to return to their hometown. The four of them huddled together in a dingy motel, struggling to survive. I heard Susan got beaten Birian in a fit offrage and ended up in the hospital with a miscarriage. Ryan only went to see her once because he was out of money and demanded that she return all the gifts he'd ever given her. Susan went mad in the hospital and was eventually diagnosed with a mental illness. She was committed to a psychiatric ward. When the divorce case finally went to trial, my side had overwhelming evidence. The court ruled in my favor. Ryan left the marriage with nothing and was ordered to repay the 3 million yuan he had secretly embezzled from me. He knelt before me in court pleading, "Sherry, you don't even need that money. Why are you being so ruthless?" I didn't even look at him. I turned and walked away. This ridiculous drama finally came to a close. The courthouse. William was waiting for me at the door. He said, "Today I'm spending your birthday with you." Had a feeling he was planning something special at the celebration that night. He got down on one knee and confessed his feelings to me. Didn't say yes right away, but I did accept the ring he offered me when I've completely forgotten about Ryan and everything tied to his family. "I'll marry you," I said, overcome with emotion. He pulled me into his arms. Then he finally said the words I hadn't heard clearly that night in Japan, "Sherry, I've waited so long."